We were having such a good conversation with our trial chairs that
Yeah.
we were like, let's just hit record and let's continue.
We
So
got
we're
to
gonna
do
make
part
this.
2.
Yes, this is episode number 7, part 2, because these
Yeah.
sisters, I'm bringing all of my sisters back to the stage,
Yeah.
are all continuing their pillars in community service and the work that they
Yeah.
do in their professional lives. And
Yes.
there's some heavy stuff out here that y'all are doing.
Yes. Yes.
There's
You
some
know,
heavy stuff.
I'm excited that we're able to continue the work that we learned and started in Ubiquity, practicing in Nguzo Saba in our families and our communities. And I wonder, though, our communities are under attack.
Especially now.
How do the principles that we learned apply to the work that we do? How?
I will say specifically the principles of involving our the union, the positive, productive union of Black men and women into community service, which in some cases includes community advocacy and justice, because you can't have peace without justice. They go, one comes before the other. And I'll say my specific experience as a Ubiquitarian, being exposed, meeting Kwame Ture at a program co-hosted by Ubiquity and the All African People's Revolutionary Party and the Kwame Ture Society.
Yes.
To speak. One time he kissed my cheek. I didn't wash my face for a week. Was everywhere, just that one side. I like that. I mean,
Wow.
So rest in peace to him, and I'll be pleased with him. So I think the biggest exposure is the call to arms to organize, and it's one thing to organize for social purposes, for family, but if you cannot secure and protect your family from whatever outside influences, from the harms, there are harms within the community and without. And so you have people who don't, all skin folk and kinfolk. And how many times have we seen this self-sabotage from, so-called, I won't even call them the names because they use a misnomer to call people who are not like loyal people and who are not what we call race people. And so I think that we have to work on that, and Ubiquity, the exposure in the community and the work we're doing can help to foster that sense of pride and that sense of loyalty and that sense of race first that you talked about, and then we have to embody it. We have to embody it. And we know that we come from, we're not a monolith, so we know we have a lot of different political backgrounds, political affiliations, political ideologies. Some of us consider ourselves more nationalists, more pan-Africanists. There are a couple of Republicans with me. I ain't gonna call them by name, but I'm just saying. And so, but I really come together under the guardian banner of one God, one aim, one destiny. That can be a unifying
Marcus.
Our pillars.
But the beauty of Ubiquity, and when Hassan and Pippa mentioned before, is just the diversity of it. As you will have in a family, you will have a diverse family. You will have everybody not agreeing on the same thing, not one ideology, learning different things, having different experiences. So I think that's the beauty that brings us together. But in keeping with, once you leave that cocoon of Howard University and you get out into this real world shit that nobody can prepare you for, not even your parents, how to maneuver the world, how the principles come into your life to help you maneuver the world and stay afloat and fight back and don't stand up for what you believe in. And it's just a lot. And you all are all in professions that are serious. Mental health, you have education, you have, returning into society after being in prison. I mean, that's some serious areas where you're dealing with people.
Can I just say that
you pass the Nguzo Saba on to them in terms of teaching them?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Can I just say that, Ada? Can I just say that Coochie Shagalia was my name, and I'll tell you, as I'm out here every day, just trying to fight the good fight, Coochie Shagalia comes to my spirit every day, because all I think about is we have to continue to determine our own destiny. We have to do it. We have to do it. So that's
And
mine.
Kujichagulia is self-determination for those
Self-determination.
who are
Thank you.
not.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Tiffany,
sister.
what was yours? What is yours? What principle you carry with you?
My undergraduate major was psychology. My minor was African American studies, Afro studies. Um, so after my Howard years, I did like what a lot of college students do. We have to drift around until our college graduates do. You have to drift around until you get into what you're really going to do, unless you're going straight to medical school or straight to law school. But I went into, I'm a mental health paraprofessional. My life goal was always to serve people with serious mental illnesses because of my dad. My dad had schizophrenia. I had to go through what many of us in the Black community go through regarding stigma and get other family members to talk about the other family members who had serious mental illness. There was a family member who probably would have been my dad's great aunt who was institutionalized in Virginia for most of her life with a serious mental illness. And this is before medications were developed to treat mental illness. Um, but there's still, even now that we have medications that can reduce symptoms of mental illness, there's so much information and misinformation and disinformation in many communities about what medications can and cannot do for mental health conditions. So bringing that to ubiquity, my favorite principle was always Imani and learning, which is faith in Swahili, Kiswahili, and in the seven principles. And in learning the seven principles and internalizing them, and then looking into my studies, the major theories from Freud to the present day, um, I thought any mental illness is a psychosocial, spiritual condition that Western psychology only looks at the brain and the mind, but in any Afrocentric culture, we also know that we are spirit,
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
body, we are mind, and we are spirit. So
Mm-hmm.
oftentimes with clients, once we stabilize your symptoms, your actual, let's say, psychoses, it could be induced due to brain trauma. I remember having a client who had traumatic brain injury after leaving Iraq, Afghanistan. That is going to be with that person for life. That is a brain injury. So
Mhm.
medications can stabilize their symptoms, but we have to attend to their spirit that was wounded in war, um,
Yeah.
and their flashbacks, their memories.
Mm.
Um, Clients who I have many clients who have histories of sexual and physical abuse.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe they are prescribed medication for sleep, but again, we have to attend to their spiritual healing as well.
So Imani
So
works
Imani.
for you in your
Amani
work.
works for me in my work. So
Okay.
just working with people, I would use, and what I found myself doing a lot of times, and I'll turn it over, is I used my activities I learned on trial as a tool, excuse me, therapeutic tool. So a lot of times I have a YouTube, I might set up a YouTube channel for my therapy group, and we would log songs and cuts that people found healing. And I
Mm-hmm.
found a lot of my clients like DMX, they like Tupac, they like, so we would log these songs on about things that they had felt and experienced. And I remember when DMX passed, there was not a dry eye in the house because he had lived it with addiction and with mental illness. And
Mm-hmm.
so many clients related
Mm-hmm.
to his
Mm-hmm.
experience. And I let the
Mm-hmm.
clients run the group,
Mm-hmm.
and people
Okay.
will pull up their favorite DMX
Mm-hmm.
songs. But I
Okay.
learned that from my Ubiquity experience about using the Black arts as a learning
Awesome.
Mm.
tool.
Kaumba.
Awesome.
Kaumba.
Angela.
Kumba,
Kuumba.
creativity.
Kuumbasity.
Yeah,
I've been supposed
Okay.
to be amazing.
absolutely.
Angela, I'd like to
Yeah.
hear from Angela. Angela, what principles
And
do you carry
Angela,
with you
from
in
a
the work that you do?
connecting to that from a Yoruba priestess, but also from an educational
Mhm.
educator mindset.
And Akan priestess.
Akan, I'm sorry.
Yes, and no worries.
There's a
Similar
difference.
in essence, it's all one. In essence, it's all one, and that's one of the things that Ubiquity does talk about. Being exposed to various spiritual traditions. I was actually introduced to the Akan tradition through, it was a recommendation from a Ubiquity sister. And actually my spiritual godmother, her daughter is a member of Ubiquity. So,
wow.
Yeah, so when I tell you Ubiquity runs a thread through my life, it really truly does. In terms of the Nguzo Saba, in terms of those principles, I will tell you, it depends on what season I'm in terms of which principle is at the height, I would say, of my life. So sometimes it might be Kuumba. I would say right now, Imani and Nia, faith and purpose.
Yeah.
Right now are the two that are really high on my focus list. But overall, I will really go to the pillar of academic excellence. I am an educator. And what Howard taught me and Ubiquity continued is that idea of excellence. So in all that I do, I measure it by it being excellent. Excellent to the best of my abilities, of course, but the goal being excellence.
Can I ask a question? I got a question. Ubiquity is about the love of the Black man and the Black woman. And I'm so happy that I believe we have some solid partnerships here. Tiffany Williams and her husband, and Malia and her husband. Angela, are you married?
I am no longer married.
Okay, no longer married.
Still love Black man. Still love
Praise
Black
the Lord. Praise the Lord. That's great.
Yes.
I want to know what do we need to do to bridge this gap? There is this big, huge, I don't say elephant in the room, but there's this big
and part of it.
Yeah, I will. No, go ahead, Ada. Yes.
Hold on. No, okay. She's going left.
No, because I'm thinking within that before even the bridging of that, there's so much onion layers to pull. I mean, we're dealing with male toxicity. We're dealing with males being raised by female households without a man role model. There's so many layers to peel back that are impacting the way men grow up in this society and don't feel their worth or their value, or it's either a misinterpreted worth or value based on what they see in their community. I mean, it's just a lot.
That's episode 8. That's episode 8.
Angela, tackle that one.
So, yes, I want to jump in on that. And I'm going to bring up the idea of Mawlyah and balance. And I think, I know we can't get into the full discussion here. As you said, there are many layers. I think in approaching that conversation, we need balance. I think that's what's missing, is hearing both sides, right? So there are flaws with both men and women, and there are great things with both men and women. There are trauma with both men and women, and those traumas can create toxic individuals. So they can be toxic men, toxic women. They create toxic individuals, and we need to deal with that trauma. We need to address that both men and women need healing. So oftentimes I hear it approached as if it's one gender or one sex that's the issue and the other one has no issues. And in that, I don't think we can ever truly have a fair conversation where we're open to hearing the experience of our other half. Dr. John Henry Clark, I'm paraphrasing one of his statements, but he essentially said, in terms of the progression of the Black race, it's either both of us or none of us.
That's right.
Yep.
And I stand by that. And so I as you can see, that's what brought me into Ubiquity, and I'm still passionate about it.
Yes.
It's the Black family. We
That's
need
right.
Black men and Black women to come together for the Black family. So when we have this conversation, we look at what's going on with Black men and Black women, we're essentially looking at what's going on with the Black family.
Yes.
And when we address the Black family issue, we can address the Black community issue and essentially how we truly empower ourselves to be a sovereign people.
Yes.
So I enter the conversation with the principle on the principle of my eye.
I appreciate that.
Did you say my
Angela?
My
MAAT.
One of those
Commission principles. We're
Mawlyah
speaking
is a
over each
kinetic
other.
concept of justice, balance, order, peace, righteousness, reciprocity. And so I say that because, and it's like she's also there's like this, she's a winged aspect of that represents this principle. And you know, I entered a conversation on that because I think it's fair that we both recognize what we each bring, both genders, you know, what we each bring to this conversation, and being open and willing to hear each other out. And so I bring up my eye in terms of balance in that.
Thank you.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yes.
That's a good point.
Sensitivity
For
sessions.
those of us,
When you say that, I think about the sensitivity sessions and the quality of the sensitivity sessions that Ubiquity brought into our lives.
A sensitivity session is like a family meeting. Let's translate that.
Indeed.
And Malia,
a family meeting.
if you wanted to,
I was going to jump on that. What Mawlyah said, she started it off just right. That is the right energy that we want to have going into the conversation. And I think a lot of it comes from, we've been talking about apprenticeship, interning, modeling, mentorship, leadership, and all of that. So it's really, I think a lot of the success of the Black family and our relationships is going to have us see them. We have to be in a space to see them. And I think see them practice healthfully and wholly, and doesn't mean that, you know, we are perfect at all by any means, because I know people who've been in long marriages long times. It doesn't mean that they're happy or healthy. They're just doing time, just like a prison sentence. They doing their time. And so I think the fact that you can have a healthy, happy relationship, and that you all are each committed to individual work, self-work, light work, shadow work, whatever people want to call it, but doing that individual work so that you all can then have a more successful unit. The main thing is, I think, being friends and being good communicators. And that, to me, is another place where Ubiquity has had such a pivotal role in my life, because not having any brothers, not even having any like close uncles. My uncles, you know, I have one uncle who lived in Hawaii, was away from me most of my life. I had lots of male cousins, but there were just, you know, big age differences between us. So really not being raised around a lot of men other than my father, and who was, you know, he and my mom co-parented me. They've been split since I was 2 years old. So I wasn't seeing that model in my home. You had to kind of look through the grandparents and great grandparents generation and hope that you capture something from that. And can get something to model and something positive to pull on. But I think Ubiquity helped me develop healthy platonic relationships with brothers, where they weren't trying to get in your drawers. They didn't want nothing from you, just to be your brother, protect you, make sure you get off the street okay, make sure you were eating, make sure nobody else took advantage of you and things like that. And that's something I think too, where we have a benefit as a co-ed organization, a co-ed family.
Absolutely.
Other groups might not necessarily. They have their friends and they have their counterparts, and, you know, the friends of and the brothers who are, you know, fraternal brothers of a sister or sorority organization. But I think having that bond and having brothers on your trial process with you and in the organization with you, working shoulder to shoulder, creates some really unique opportunities for fostering those positive relationships that we led into, and I think helped to grow and develop my own relationships with men.
And help you choose a partner who was what you had seen, your experience. Exactly. I will jump in from the social work perspective. I'm learning to modulate my language. So I'm
what do you mean?
I'm attempting not to use phrases, no diss to anyone else. Phrases like toxic masculinity. I'm attempting, and others in my profession are attempting to change our framework about masculinity. Let's just call it masculinity. And rather than labeling some of the traits we see in males in Western societies, in all societies, as toxic or negative, let's look at them as they are and accept them. So that role of protector that Malia spoke of, that and we saw this in Ubiquity, but I saw it at Howard University in general, that a brother, a classmate would make sure that he walks you to your dorm, that you go into your dorm, and then he would be the one to walk on foot by himself back to his building.
Yeah.
That role of protector
Yeah.
is a role that males, research has shown, intrinsically need. They need that. They
Yes.
need that role. So when
Yeah.
we're asking why men are not members of Ubiquity, why men are not entering HBCUs or entering colleges, they are missing their biological, psychological, spiritual roles, protectors, providers, builders. And we
Right.
have, I believe, as a society, a Western society, swung from making those roles super sanct or super sanctuous, where men were conquering, raping, pillaging. We want to use the power that they have, the physical power that men have, as in that way. But we do want men to protect. We do want men to protect. That is their role. And
And
there's
lead.
research that show and lead, and there's some research that shows hormonally, biologically, that they need those responsibilities. Um, so
So
back
where
in
have
the days,
what? I'm sorry, I didn't know. I don't know. Why have those responsibilities kind of gone down on the totem
so,
pole?
someone mentioned that yes, there have been ubiquitarian Black Republicans. Me and one of my trial brothers was talking about this recently and laughing about that time period at Howard University. But let's go back. I have the annual 2025 calendar from the Negro Council of Women, Council of
National
Negro Women,
Council of
the
Negro
National
Women.
Council
Yeah.
of Negro Women, and
Mhm.
the section about Ida B. Wells, and she was
Mhm.
a delegate to the Republican convention in whatever year that would have been. You have to go back through Black American history and find out why Black Americans originally were Republicans, and many Black
Right, we
Republicans
were
say
originally.
that. And you have to go back. I won't go through the whole thing. You have to go back and how um, African Americans swung from Republicans to Democrats. So moving forward, there have been Black conservatives and Black Republicans who will say that the Black man had been dethroned, quote unquote, from his leadership position in the Black community. But this is something that the Nation of Islam has said. This is something that has been said in other faith traditions. So it's not really a Black Republican or Black conservative concept. It is a concept that people have observed over time as correct. Back in the 80s, I had to look him up. I'm sorry, my phone is visible. Dr. Jawanza Kunjufu came out of Chicago. See, I have to go back to my Chicago
Mm-hmm.
roots.
Come
Um,
on.
the countering the conspiracy to destroy Black boys.
Mm.
He presented that book at my high school. I distinctly remember this, and our mouths were ajar, just thinking like in our own families, things that we had seen. So
Mm.
those who are in the 21st century, this is not on TikTok. This is not on the IG. You may have to go back and get an actual book
Gotta go
or look
back.
it up. It may be in Google Docs or something. You may have to go back and look up
Gotta go back.
Jawanza Kunjufu. I mentioned earlier the book Stolen Legacy. The elder who wrote that book is George G.M. James. About there were traditions that reared Black men
Mm-hmm.
going back centuries before
Yeah.
our arrival in this country.
That's right.
There were African traditions that
Mm-hmm.
reared Black men. So
Mm-hmm.
we see when we come into the United States and the 20th century, there were organizations that came about, as I said, Odd Fellows, Prince Hall Masons, Alpha Phi Alpha, other organizations, but damn sure, excuse the language, they did not draw
Go ahead,
some of
girl.
those same traditions of making men. So we see men walking with bricks, but we can look at our ancestors in Africa, across the campus or something. They're pledging whatever organization, but they're carrying a tree together. So they're learning cooperation. They're learning how to use their physical strength to complete a goal. So I look at that in the mental health realm and think this is what some men are missing. As I stated, Malia mentioned her and her spouse, my husband and I look at his organizations that he's a member of, and I told him, maybe if I do some PhD studies, my God, shoo,
Go
what
ahead,
I would
girl.
really, what I would really like to look at is these models of Black manhood,
Yeah.
fraternities, fraternal organizations. Here in Baltimore City, where I now reside, there is for what is it? We Are Us. These are brothers that literally just get in a truck and they just see homies hanging on the corner. They jump out the truck. They're trying to interact with them, making sure they have. Do you have a legal driver's license so 50 can't pull you over? You know, do you, whatever they're doing, intervening, that men have to intervene with men.
Yes,
And we
indeed.
should not, as sisters,
Indeed.
we should not, as women, we should not call that toxic. And I
Indeed.
think that came out of
Absolutely.
white, I have to be frank, I think that came out of white feminism.
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, white
Of
men. Yes.
there's first wave feminism, second wave feminism, third wave feminism. I could go through that whole thing.
You're
Mhm.
probably right.
Black womanism was never oppositional to men.
That's right.
That was not the original intention.
Yeah, yeah.
Good point. Thank you for that.
I've always, as
So,
I think, repeat that.
Especially for us, I think, especially for us, because I believe we've always
who's
been
us? Who's us? Who's
us, Black women.
Black women.
Yeah,
Oh,
we didn't have a choice. I mean, we didn't have a choice. So,
and may I just add one last thing? In the Black community, by and large, we always accepted our brothers and sisters of different sexualities. I want to bring that up because when we're talking about Black men, we don't want to exclude any Black men. We want to keep our Black men that were doing our hair, doing our nails, making our faces up, making our clothes, who were in the kitchen with us and our aunties. They were cooking with us. Nobody gave them a name, but we all understood that they were different than some of the other brothers in the community. But we accepted them. Us as Black women, we accepted
because that's family.
Because we didn't outcast those brothers.
Yeah.
We didn't outcast those brothers. That has come about maybe later, and in some cultures they are oppressed. But I want to just acknowledge the diversity of the Black experience, and it includes. I can name some names.
Okay,
in the movie.
but we can, but
not
we
at this
understand.
time.
Yeah, we understand that
Good point, thank you.
Ubiquity has always been a diverse organization,
right?
With our root being co-ed, meaning Black male, Black female,
the pillars
of everyone.
And that's what we, yeah, and that's what we always and I'd like to Malia, you have a point I want to hear before we kind of wrap up a little bit.
And I wanted to also share a quote. I'm glad my sisters all had equal voice here. I wanted to share a quote my husband just shared with me. He had scribbled it on a napkin because he's right now at a Muslim mental health conference that happens every year. It's the 8th year that they've done it, where a lot of imams and people, stakeholders from all over the community will gather just to talk about mental health, because that's something that's been stigmatized in a lot of faith cultures or just ignored altogether. So he's at this conference and somebody did this piece and they said, we don't just need self-care, we need soul care. So to tie back into what Leah shared about us having traumas, individual and collective traumas, that we need to care for our souls. And that's ultimately going to be the thing that carries us through. And so as we're talking about our brothers, and I'm looking forward to the episodes where they're in the room representing as well, representing themselves and their voice, I do want to share this poem by Sterling Brown called Strong Men. It's from the, I want to say, was it 1930s, 40s? It's quite old. It's quite an old poem. I think it even predates.
Yeah, he was Professor at Howard at one time as well.
Exactly. Okay. So this is pretty sure I think it should close us out. Strong men, they dragged you from the homeland. They changed you in hoffles. They huddled you spoon fashion in filthy hatches. They sold you to give a few gentlemen ease. They broke you in like oxen. They scourged you. They branded you. They made you women breeders. They swelled your numbers with bastards. They taught you the religion they disgraced. They sang, keep an inch and along like a inch worm. You sang, by and by, I'm going to lay down this heavy load. You sang, walk together, children. Don't you get weary. The strong men keep a coming on. The strong men get stronger. They point with pride to the roads you built for them. They ride in comfort over the rails you laid for them. They put hammers in your hands and drive so much before sundown. You sang, ain't no hammer in this land strikes like mine, baby, strikes like mine. They copped you in kitchens. They pinned you in factories. They gave you jobs that they were too good for. They tried to guarantee happiness to themselves by shunting dirt and misery to you. And it goes on, and it actually stops there, but it's in the refrain. When people read it, they repeat the refrain of strong men, keep it coming, strong men getting stronger, strong
men getting stronger, strong men getting stronger. The family, the Black man and the Black woman and the Black family is the essence of who we are as Ubiquity. For the love of each other, for the love of my sisters. Thank y'all so much. It has been a joy and a pleasure to commune with each of you. And it goes on. We've got more conversations, more to delve into as a community, and I look forward to having you all back really soon. Stay tuned. We're going to talk to our brothers at some point. We're going to talk about saving our sons. We're going to talk about our mental health. We're going to talk about our souls and the healing of our souls. So stick with us on Saturdays. Ubiquity, FTLOEO. For the love of each other.
For the love of each
For
other.
the love of each other.
Peace and blessings.